I guess we're all here now, so I'll call the meeting to order. Good morning. I call to order the September 19th, 2023 meeting of the Las Virgenes-Malibu COG Governing Board. Will the Executive Director please call the roll?
Ray Pearl.
Here.
Penny Sylvester.
Here.
Doug Stewart.
Here.
Alicia Weintraub.
Here.
President Gold.
Here. I'd like to take a moment of silence for LA County Deputy Ryan Klinkenbroomer, who was ambushed this past Saturday and murdered. Our next agenda item is approval of the agenda, item number 2. Does anybody have changes to the agenda to add? If not, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second. Sorry.
Thank you. Will the Executive Director please call the roll?
Ray Pearl.
Yes.
Penny Sylvester.
Aye.
Doug Stewart.
Yes.
Alicia Weintraub.
Yes.
President Gold.
Yes.
Motion
Public-
carries unanimous.
Public comment period. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the governing board? Okay, I don't see any hands. Terry, have you received any public comments electronically?
No, I have not.
Thank you. Since we have no public comments, we'll go to item number 4, the consent calendar. The consent calendar items will be approved in one motion unless removed for separate discussion or action. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent calendar? No, if not, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve. Penny Sylvester.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Will the Executive Director call the roll?
Ray Pearl.
Yes.
Penny Sylvester.
Aye.
Doug Stewart.
Yes.
Alicia Weintraub.
Yes.
President Gold.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is the information items. I'd like to ask Terry to give the Executive Director's report.
Happy to. Since we didn't have a meeting in August, I'll try and be thorough without being too long-winded, but I spent most of the time on the COG's hazard mitigation plan, which is currently underway and being updated, and coordinating the Measure M funding discussions with the cities, Metro, and Magellan, and then addressing future issues with the COG's homeless grant. So with regard to the hazard mitigation plan, our working group meeting met again last week, and things are going very well. The consultant spent most of the time talking about the public workshop that we're going to have, and it was suggested rather than just one workshop, a virtual workshop, that it would be better if we did one for each one of the cities in order to provide everybody's own take on it with familiar faces from the respective cities. So we're going to do it that way. Those meetings are going to be in October. And once I have the dates for those, I will let the governing board members know and the city managers, although you probably already know from your staff. But that's going very well, and I plan to have the consultant present the hazard mitigation plan possibly next month, but more likely at the November COG meeting. The Measure M projects that I've been working on are all on the agenda today, and we'll go through that later on in the meeting. We held a kickoff meeting for the design engineering phase of the COG's regional smart cities fiber network. All of the cities were represented. That went well. I had my regular meeting with Metro, which is not a big deal, but I continue to meet with Ara Najarian's new board deputy, Maureen. Vivian Rescalvo, and so we have an excellent working relationship so far, and I expect that to continue. I will be participating tonight in the Calabasas Communication and Technology Commission to provide an update on the regional smart cities fiber network design engineering, and just the only negative out there. Point out that if the governing board members, I'm sure you recall approving a grant research contract with California Consulting. It was very disappointing. I gave California Consulting the design guideline, the grant guidelines that Las Virgenes Water District and I had put together. They came up with 12 grants. None of them really focused on the what we were hoping for. And I went back to the consultant from California Consulting, and I said, hey, I know we paid for 10 hours, $1,500. And so maybe the remaining hours they could use for focusing in this area. And he said, oh, I checked with the research person and she expended all of the hours, which shocked me. But anyway, we ended up with nothing, except Las Virgenes Water District did pay their $750, half of it, but it was very disappointing. So I'm going to regroup with Dave Peterson at the Water District and try and figure something else out, but I will keep the board and the city managers posted on that. And the COGS Homeless Working Group will be meeting on September 25th. Having our regular meeting that we hold every other month with the Department of Mental Health, Sheriff, host team, and other agencies that support homelessness. And I also point out that I was invited to, Gabriel and I were both invited to a meeting that's on Thursday that's going to be in Malibu with the host team and some other agencies to discuss the current homeless situation. So I will provide an update to the governing board after that meeting. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Harry, I'll be joining you at that meeting on Thursday as well.
Oh, great, Alicia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary. If we don't have any other questions or comments, I'd like to welcome Calabasas Council Member James Bazagian to our meeting and ask him to provide an update on the issue of cities and districts. Welcome, James.
Hello. I have a little, oh, could I screen share?
Yeah, hold on one second, James. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. There you go, James.
Okay. All right. I've got a few slides. Let's see here. All right. Ryan, sorry. Where is it? Very bottom. Sorry about that. Okay, here we are. All right, so I gave this part of this presentation to the Contract Cities Convention. That's why it says what it says a couple weeks ago or last weekend. So what I'm going to talk about today, I've got a few slides and then maybe questions. Pico Neighborhood Association versus City of Santa Monica, which was decided last month. The background of this case, the defendant, the City of Santa Monica, uses an at-large system for electing 7 members to its city council. Citing the California Voting Rights Act of 2001, the plaintiffs challenge the at-large voting process there under the theory that such a system discriminates against ethnic minorities, more specifically in this case, Hispanic or Latino residents. Santa Monica has an overall Hispanic population of about 15%, but it's possible to create one district of 7 that would be roughly 30% Hispanic. Historically, few non-whites have been elected to the council. At present, 4 of the 7 current city council members identify as Hispanic or Latino. Plaintiffs sought to force Santa Monica to adopt a district-based system for its municipal elections. I should mention that the plaintiffs contend that there are not 4 Hispanic council members, and after 7 years, the Supreme Court said it was not going to decide that issue in its decision. So I don't know how hard it is to determine the ethnicities of the 4 people, but apparently they couldn't do it. The procedural history of the case: in 2016, the case was filed. 2019, the Superior Court ruled in favor of the plaintiffs. In 2020, the Court of Appeal reversed and ruled in favor of the defendants, which was Santa Monica. In 2020, the California Supreme Court granted review. The case was argued before the Supreme Court this year and then decided in terms of reversing the Court of Appeal decision and sending it back for further proceedings without making a final decision. The California Voting Rights Act prohibits an at-large method of election that impairs or dilutes the ability of a protected class, which in California is described as race, color, or language minority group, to elect candidates of its choice or its ability to influence the outcome of an election. The plaintiffs must show racially polarized voting patterns. In other words, that the protected class members vote as a politically cohesive unit, while the majority votes sufficiently as a bloc to usually defeat the protected class's preferred candidate. To establish dilution, a plaintiff must prove that under some lawful alternative electoral system, the protected class would have the potential on its own or with the help of crossover voters to help elect its preferred candidate. So the California Voting Rights Act differs in 2 ways from the Federal Voting Rights Act. First, the California version does not require a plaintiff to demonstrate that the members of the protected class would be geographically compact or concentrated enough to constitute a majority or even a near majority of a hypothetical single-member district. This is a mistake often made by cities, including some cities like ours, where we can't draw a majority-minority district. That's not required under the California Voting Rights Act, and it's not a defense to one of these lawsuits. Second, the California Voting Rights Act allows a plaintiff to prevail merely by demonstrating that the at-large method impairs the class's ability to influence the outcome of an election. This is a lesser standard than the federal one of having to show an ability to actually elect those candidates. So the court was asked by both sides to just give a minimum percentage. What percentage is a minimum necessary of a certain ethnic group to be looked at to even sustain one of these lawsuits? And the court declined. It said, as I quoted, the court presented with a dilution claim should undertake a searching evaluation of the totality of the facts and circumstances. So they're going to look at the whole situation. There's no minimum requirement, which was very annoying because that leaves us with no standard. So they're going to look at the characteristics of the locality, the electoral history. They're going to look at the electoral system, and they're going to look at the design and impact of any potential alternative system you put in place. To force a conversion to district-based elections, a plaintiff must show not merely that the protected class would have an opportunity in one or more hypothetical districts, but also that the incremental gain in the class's ability to elect its candidate of choice in such districts would not be offset by loss of the class's potential to elect its candidates of choice elsewhere in the locality. This is helpful to Sacramento because, Santa Monica. I'm going to Sacramento in a couple hours. I have it on my mind. This is helpful to Santa Monica because they have the 4 council members, as I mentioned, who are Hispanic. And if you draw that 30% district, a couple or 3 of them are in that district. So Santa Monica argued that if you force us to go into districts, we will automatically lose 1 or 2 Hispanic council members. And the court here seems to look at that a little bit and give it weight, but without, again, making a final decision. So this is important for your cities, the remedies. So if you're sued and the court's looking for a remedy, if you lose, or if you as a body wish to convert to districts and looking for remedy, the court said, by the way, it's not just by district elections. We're going to look at all the remedies. If by district elections won't serve the purpose, we're going to look at cumulative voting, limited voting, and ranked choice voting. Cumulative voting means that if there are 3 seats up, you get 3 votes. But this time you get to stack those votes. You can put 3 for different candidates, you can put 2 and 1, or you can give all 3 votes to one candidate. So you're just given 3 separate votes. And in that system, it's beneficial to use all 3 votes. Cumulative voting is also followed by limited voting. Limited voting is probably the least democratic of these. In limited voting, if you have 3 seats up and you go into the polling place, you get 1 vote. They limit your ability to cast a vote. And fourth is ranked choice voting, which a lot of us have heard about. It's very complicated. It would be hard to apply in our situation, but the court mentioned it. You could do it here, which is an instant runoff where you put your first, second, and third choices on the ballot. And they keep counting the ballots again and again until dropping the lowest vote getter until they come up with 3 winners. So where does the case go from here? It goes back to the Court of Appeal. It'll probably be 2 years before the Court of Appeal makes a final decision in this case. Because then it could go back to the state Supreme Court and it could be even longer. So they'll hear arguments, they'll hear briefs, they'll read briefs, and they'll make a final decision. The Court of Appeal is the same panel that heard the case before. They seem to be more inclined to go with Santa Monica, but they do have these new standards to apply. So what are the parameters of who can sue under the Voting Rights Act? Well, this is a situation left unsettled. I gave several examples at the convention of groups that could sue. You could potentially have, like many cities now have in LA County, where whites are the minority, and you have a council that does not have any non-Hispanic whites on the council, and potentially they could sue. But more apt to our cities, there are subgroups that could sue. For example, if you have a large community, and I gave this example too, of Persian Americans, Iranian Americans, and none have ever been elected to your council, which is the case in all but one of our cities, I believe, you could get a suit from that community and force a district election if there's a larger concentration of them that you could create in one area. Don't be fooled by the size of your city. I've spoken extensively with the city of Lomita. They are 1.9 square miles, and they are about 10,000 people, I think, maybe a little more. They were forced into districts, and they, their districts are 4 blocks long. So, and the council didn't change its composition. So basically, it was a pointless act. The whole motivation for this is money. Just so you know, the plaintiffs automatically, if they send you a letter demanding that you go into districts, the lawyers automatically get paid whether you go into districts or not. And I think you have 90 days to decide whether you're going to go into districts. If you miss a 90-day deadline and you fight it, you get more attorney's fees all the way along. Santa Monica, what's at stake here is the attorney's fees to date, I believe, are close to $30 million. So whoever loses this case is going to get a big fat bill for $30 million. And for our cities, that would be a bankruptcy situation, essentially. Santa Monica can probably afford it. They'll go into debt, but if they lose, that's what they're looking at. My final slide. After 7 years of litigation and after sitting on this case for 3 of those years, the California Supreme Court made no decision here and sent it back to the Court of Appeal, despite being invited by both plaintiffs and defendant to articulate clearer, objective standards. The Supreme Court declined to do so. Even assuming this was the right course of action, why did the Supreme Court waste 3 long years to issue a non-opinion? And how much longer will cities need to wait before the Supreme Court weighs in on this important matter more definitively? I don't want you to think that I agree with this whole premise of the Voting Rights Act and how it's applied. I'm simply presenting what the court said. And that's it. That was the end of my presentation to them on this subject. I had some other things we'll save for a later time. Eniko, if anyone has any questions, I know I went through it quickly, but I didn't want to take too much of your time.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Do we have any questions for James?
This is Jeremy. Do we have, so we don't know when the Court of Appeals will come back with like a ruling? James, do you have any idea of the timeline?
Yeah, they go back. I think it's 90, it's usually 90-day increments. So they'll go back in 90 days and have a hearing. And then the court will give them a schedule of briefs to file. And they'll then schedule oral arguments. And then they'll have 90 days to issue the decision. And then 90 days for the losing party to appeal. All of that, I think, will take at least a year. But then there's an appeal period to the state Supreme Court. That's the real problem. The decision won't be final. So there won't be any guidance for us until the state Supreme Court either takes the case or declines the case. The state Supreme Court does not have to take the case back. They could, if they're happy with the Court of Appeal decision. So potentially the case could be finalized by the Court of Appeal in a year. And then the state Supreme Court within a few months of that could say, that's fine, we don't want to hear it. Or they could do what they did here and spend years and years taking the case, sitting on it, hearing briefs. I've seen cases sent back 2 or 3 times. So this could drag on 5 years. I mean, it's a problematic thing. It doesn't give us any finality for our own election cycles out here. Meanwhile, the good news is, Jeremy, that I don't think, because there's so many attorney's fees involved, and the Court of Appeal, by the way, assessed the attorney's fees against the plaintiffs, which would have sent that law firm out of business probably. They will probably not send out too many letters while the law is in flux, because they do not want to risk having all these cities challenge them and then being assessed not just Santa Monica's attorney's fees, but everybody else's.
Interesting. Thank you. And none of our 5 cities have been served a letter. Is that correct to your knowledge?
That to my knowledge, no letter. As a matter of public record, and I can't discuss further than this, our city was served with a Public Records Act request from the Southwest Voter Education Project, I think it's called. And that is the Hispanic Latino coalition that sends out the Public Records Act request to get some demographic information from you before the other group comes in and sues. They work with the plaintiffs. So we were served with that a couple of years ago. We did not hear back from them.
Thank you.
And I think Malibu was served by that too.
Mary, can you please take us out of screen share mode so we can see each other?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is up.
Here. Terry, can you do that from where you are, Terry?
Yes, hold on. That should
Here, let me do that. There.
Thank you.
Okay. So I wish I had better news, or more definitive news, but that's it. And if anybody wants this, Terry, you're free to give the whole thing.
If we don't have any questions or comments for James.
I think someone did.
Doug, yes.
Yeah, just a quick question. We focused on Santa Monica as being the tip of the spear on this case. Are there any other cases working their way through that are similar or might have a different outcome?
I'm unaware of any in the Court of Appeal right now. I know some cities have fought. A couple times the plaintiffs have backed down or reached a settlement. Santa Clarita is converting to districts. Thousand Oaks is converting to districts. I don't know, and La Cañada got served, but I don't think they're necessarily, I don't know if they're going to fight or not. La Cañada is more comparable in many ways to our cities out here. So they're going after cities of our size. They're not shy about doing that. Lomita is also somewhat comparable to some of our cities. but they did not want to spend the money fighting.
Okay, thank you.
James, any other questions? No, thank you so much, James, for the presentation.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.
Thanks, James.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome Jory Wolf to our meeting and ask him to provide an update on the design engineering for the COG's Regional Smart Cities Fiber Network. Welcome, Jory.
Thank you, Anika. Good morning, everyone. And I wanted to give you an update on the broadband design program that is taking place. We worked with Terry, and Terry was very helpful in forming a working group. And the working group is made up of public works and engineers from each of the respective cities. In addition to that, we also provided a contact for the city, for the LA County. And also we've added a contact for the Las Virgenes Water District. Representing the COG is Terry Dipple on the working group. Agoura Hills is Jessica Forte. Calabasas is Tatiana Holden. Hidden Hills is Dirk Lovett. Malibu is Rob Dubois. Westlake Village is Roxanne Hughes. LA County is Sophia Sudani. And representing Las Virgenes Water District is Ira Gwenji. We had our project kickoff on September 12th. It was a good kickoff, and we presented the background goals and objectives of the project. It was an opportunity for each of the public works and other representatives to ask questions and for us to start gathering information. We shared much of our toolkit and communications platforms and GIS platforms with the group. They have now access to that information, and we have set up meetings on a weekly basis and are doing round robin calls with each of the cities so as to make best use of their time to focus singularly on their city. And then we'll be coming together about every 5 weeks after we do the round robin with each of the cities, gathering information about assets that are currently available, capital projects that will make future assets available to reduce the cost of construction, and also to help mitigate impacts in your public right-of-way. And we'll also are in the process of working with those individuals and other contacts that they've given us for your cities in identifying anchor institutions and various contacts in public safety and other institutions and anchors within your communities. We are currently underway in creating our platforms with the existing data that has been provided to us. And we are in the process now of vetting that data and determining whether or not we need to review any documents, engineering designs, etc., that each of your member cities may have on file. We are moving ahead quickly. We expect that the project can be done in 4 months. It is a 6-month project, but we hope to complete this sooner. And we've already got our engineering team involved in these, in the kickoff call and the weekly calls. That is it for the update for the project, which started on September 12th. I do want you all to know that if you want more information about the project, Magellan will have a booth in the exhibit hall at the Cal Cities conference on the 20th and on the 21st.
Thank you, Jory. Do we have any questions for Jory or comments? I don't see anybody's hand up. Okay, thank you so much, Jory. We're excited about the project.
Thank you, Eniko, and thank you all.
Thanks, Jory.
Bye.
Thanks, bye. Our next agenda item is item number D. I'd like to welcome Calabasas Mayor David Shapiro and ask him to provide an update as the District Number 44 SCAG Regional Council member.
Thank you, Eniko. Well, thank you for having me. Hello to everybody I see online or in the building here possibly. I see there's a really good report in here. Rachel, who may be online, Rachel Wagner, works with SCAG, works with us, keeps us straight. She's attached item 6D, so I will try not to go over too much of that, but some of it I'll cover. Just the reason I was muted and offline, I'm also on the legislative committee for SCAG as well, and we're going over the bills, the trailer bills, right now with Assembly Member Jackson and some other Assembly members. So I have those meetings as well. Separately, I am vice chair, or was elected vice chair of the CHD committee, and that's the committee. That's the committee that deals with economic and human development, housing, such as RENA, the first item we've dealt with, as well as regional council representing everybody here. The first thing is RENA reform, which affects us all and has affected us all for a long time. We had a special meeting of our CHD committee in August. That was the only meeting SCAG had in August to go over RENA reform and recommendations. Staff brought forward, after meeting with us, about 13 recommendations for changes we're going to send to HCD. And we added to that, we had some members, our membership is through the entire Southern California region, so you can imagine there are diverse views of what HCD is doing or not doing properly. So we went ahead and added some items to that as well, brought it to the regional council last 10 days ago, and regional council is approved the release of the SCAG recommendations of the reformation of the regional housing needs assessment process. And these recommendations are going to go forward to the Department of Housing and Community Development, known as HCD, in a formal letter to be included in a report of recommendations to the California State Legislature. And there are many, and I'm sure they're attached here. If not, I can provide a link. And just because we recommend it, of course, doesn't mean they have to abide by it, but we're going to do our best. So that's the number one thing we're working on and have been working on for years, and will continue to work on, having RENA reform, whether it's the methodology, whether it's consideration for our cities, as I have testified on behalf of all of our cities about issues of fire danger and that we're in a wildfire zone and other things that should be considered, which aren't necessarily in Sacramento or by HCD. That's one of the biggest things we can do. The second thing going on in SCAG right now is the RUSH program overview, which I believe you've already dealt with. Terry, am I wrong on that? Or Eniko, have you already gone through this?
A couple of years ago, we considered applying for a REAP grant, and I had a call with Rachel yesterday and some other SCAG staffers about the RUSH program, but it appears that the focus of that program is for utilities that would benefit affordable housing projects. And I'm not really sure if that really would make sense for our COG or to pursue.
Right. Okay. And yes, and it's tied into the elements of the REAP 2.0 program, which I think you're talking about. And there's, again, $35 million available with green infrastructure plans, increased utility capacity for residential. I thought there were some opportunities for for other types of development as well, but I am not certain on the process. I know it opens up and applications are accepted through November 6th. So you've already dealt with that. I won't waste your valuable time on it. Connect SoCal is the other thing. We just had a joint policy committee. Our committees met, and then referring it to the regional council, the 2024 Connect SoCal plan. And that's a plan showcasing policies and strategies to be included. And really a goal here being local planning and policy actions to be taking a priority, not not an over broad view, because our region, when it comes to transportation, is very different than Riverside or San Bernardino. So we need to be able to have some input and be able to come up with some plans that work for us. And the SCAG is going to be contacting to all of us, but Terry and all of our cities to provide information and get feedback before this goes forward. This is an ongoing process which will be completed in, as I said, 2024. Quick note, I'm sure many of you are going up to Sacramento, so this may not apply, but September 20th is the 34th annual demographic workshop held in conjunction with the USC Price School, and it's in downtown LA at SCAG. It's free to all elected officials and I believe some city staff as well. In December, there's the annual Economic Summit as well downtown, and that's a 1.5 day event, a 1 full day event, and again, free to council and elected officials, as well as certain staff, I believe, on that. Rachel's online. She can always correct me if I'm giving away too much here. But I know you have a very full agenda, and I know your time's very valuable. So I just wanted to give a couple key points, quick points, RENA being the biggest one that we're all dealing with.
Thank you so much, Mayor Shapiro. I think I can speak for all of us. We value greatly your efforts and advocacy for our region. Thank you so much, and your hard work.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll take any questions, but I think your agenda is real full, so I don't want to take any more time.
Do we have any questions or comments from Mayor Shapiro?
I would just like to say that, David, I appreciate Rachel and her representation at SCAG and helpfulness when needed. So thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. And thank you, Mayor Shapiro. You're such an asset to SCAG, and we're really fortunate that you represent this region. So thank you for your time and dedication. You gave a great update. I have nothing to add.
Wow.
Thanks, David.
I think you probably provided me most of it. So I got to give credit where it's due. I sit in the meetings and vote, and make comments, but the hard work's done by all the staff. So thank you. And thank you, Eniko, and everyone for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. We appreciate you both. Thank you. So now we're moving on to our next agenda item, public safety, legislative and agency partner updates. We usually start with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, but Captain C2 is at a funeral this morning, so she is not able to join us. I'd like to move on to our next guest, the Los Angeles County Fire Department. Chief Smith, do you have anything to report?
I do. Just your fire family is doing good. Just one thing I want to give to the COG is don't get lured into the nice, cool climate we have, because our Santa Ana winds will blow. So don't let our guard down. Within the area, we have been doing quite a robust ready, set, go and public information campaign, gearing people up for evacuations and preparedness. It's going really good. A lot of positive response. And we're giving away a lot of the radios from the National Weather Service and showing people how to use them. And so with that, very limited on what I have. Things are good. And I'll leave it to Megan and see if she has anything to add to the group.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Chief Smith. So I don't have too much either. I just wanted to mention quickly that we were supposed to have a community fire season briefing with the city of Calabasas last Thursday. However, we had to cancel that because Chief Smith and I had to go to a big incident that happened in Marina Del Rey. So we've pushed that, and now it's going to be taking place on Monday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. And that will be via Zoom. So, and I'm sure that's available on the city of Calabasas website. But other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you both. Do we have any, if we don't have any further questions, then I'm going to move to League of Cities. Jeff, welcome. Do you have anything to report?
Hi, excuse me, good morning. I will also be heading up to Sacramento in just a couple hours, but I wanted to give you a bit more information. Most of the members on this call should have already received some of the information I just put in the chat, but obviously the legislative session ended last Thursday. There is, first of all, I want to say thank you for everyone who reached out to their members on ACA 13. This is the constitutional amendment, which is now going to the November ballot, not the March ballot as we had originally thought, but it'll go on the November ballot. And this would say that if you are in the future, any ballot measure that tries to raise a voting threshold will also need to pass by that same voting threshold. So rather than go to March, the governor really swooped in at the last minute and decided that we want to put all these things on the November ballot instead. They can all be decided together. So that's why ACA 13 they decided to hold it until the November ballot. Lots of other things that I've been kind of following up on. I put a really extensive email together. That link in the chat also includes the votes from your legislators. Lots of things that we had been really working on that we had opposed did end up passing this year. It really is a product of the legislature's makeup. They have the Democrats have that very secure 2/3 vote margin. Some of the things that I've been kind of working with you on for quite some time, obviously SB 423, the Wiener bill about expanding, SB 35 and the ministerial housing approvals for multi-unit housing. That does extend into the coastal zone. I've spoken to Malibu about this and others, but we really don't think that the very high fire severity zone standards in there mean much in the way of any exemptions whatsoever. That same language is in a lot of bills, and it really just means you have to build to the same fire codes. So there's a lot of information in there. I encourage you to take a look at it. Hopefully I'll see many of you in Sacramento. Last thing I did want to mention quick, actually one more legislation. The AB 1679, the authorization for the 0.5 up to a 0.5 sales tax did pass. That's the LA County La Casa and potentially a replacement for Measure H that would be going on to a ballot sometime next year. That did pass. As you know, Cal City's LA County division has put out a letter of concerns about that. That information wouldn't necessarily end up in the legislation, but we did want to continue to talk about what we're looking for there, being a local return, dedicated local return this time. And it's the position of our board that we don't want to extend over the current sales tax cap to push the sales tax even higher in some cities. So that's sort of the last bill I wanted to mention. The other link I have in there, and of course our policy committee application 24 are now open. You have until October the 13th to join one of those, or to apply to join one of those committees, and we'll get those appointments made through our various committees, caucuses, departments, and divisions made by the end of or the beginning of December. So that's all I really have, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone had any questions about legislation or anything about the conference that's coming up this week.
Do we have any questions for Jeff? Nope. Okay, thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you for the update. Always very valuable.
Looking forward to seeing everyone.
Thank you. And on to our next agenda item, which is item number D, updates from legislative staff and agency partners. And I see we have Sophia with Supervisor Horvat's office with us. Do you have anything to share?
Everybody, thank you so much. This is Sophia from Supervisor Horvat's office. Just a quick, some quick updates from our office. We've it was great the other weekend to get to go out into Agoura Hills and do the creek cleanup. Thank you, Jeremy, and the rest of the Agoura Hills community for inviting us there. It was a great event. Our office has been very much in partnership with the sheriff and LA County Fire to make sure we're in line with emergency preparedness and making sure our communities and our cities have those resources. We just recently did a fire safety day in Topanga, and we're looking forward to meeting with other cities and seeing how we can maybe replicate those efforts as well. We've appreciated getting to connect with Malibu and Westlake Village as well, just to learn a little bit more about some of the needs and ways we can partner in the future. And besides that, we're still working on multiple different efforts regarding homelessness. The supervisor just was appointed as chair of LASA, and she's looking forward to continuing to make that a priority and advocate for the different needs that our cities have expressed. Lastly, I would say as I've continuously said, our discretionary fund application is open on our website. Please do apply if you're a nonprofit community group that's looking for an additional funding. All the information is on the website, and I'm happy to put that in the chat as well. But besides that, you're for any county needs or resources you might have. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sophia. Do we have any questions for her? Nope. Okay. I also see Davis Hunt from Senator Allen's office. Do you have anything to report?
Yeah, I have a few brief updates. Good morning, everyone. Always good to be here with you. As Jeff mentioned, the legislative session just ended last week, so Senator Allen is now back in the district for the fall recess. We do have a few highlights from his bill package at the end of session that I do want to share. He has already had one bill signed into law by the governor, SB 469, and that is a bill that clarifies that housing projects that receive state grants are exempt from Article 34 and do not need voter approval in order for construction to begin. A couple other bills that have passed both houses of the legislature and are now awaiting the governor's signature. Our big water bill, which I believe I've mentioned on a couple meetings prior this year, SB 389, which would give the State Water Resources Control Board the ability to verify water rights claims that predate the 1914 Water Commission Act. That passed after a lot of negotiations, and we expect the governor to sign it into law. A couple bills on the issues of plastics. SB 676 is a law that restores power at the local level for local governments to regulate artificial turf. Back in 2016, before we kind of knew all of the dangerous PFAS chemicals that are in artificial turf and can contaminate our environment. There was actually a law passed at the state level that prohibited local governments from putting in any kind of restrictions on installing artificial turf as opposed to other types of drought-resistant landscaping. So Senator Allen's bill would repeal that 2016 law. And then also on the issue of plastics, our bill SB 777 passed both houses of the legislature, and that will require big box grocery stores to file quarterly reports with CalRecycle on how they're spending the 10-cent fee that we're being charged when we pay for plastic bags at the store. Those funds were supposed to be used to put in a recycling infrastructure where folks can bring those bags back to the store and ensure that they're recycled properly. I don't know about you or me. I haven't seen any of those programs up and running at my local grocery stores. So this bill will help to make sure that those stores are held accountable for using those taxpayer funds in the way that they're supposed to. A couple bills that Senator Allen did not author, but that we did get a lot of feedback on from members of the COG and just constituents in this part of the district. SB 423, while it did pass through both the Senate and the Assembly, Senator Allen did not support it. He just could not get over the lack of the exemptions for either the coastal zone or for fire zones. And he continues to believe that while we, of course, need to densify and build more housing in the right areas, that those areas should not include our hillsides that are in high fire hazard severity zones and very high fire hazard severity zones. So he did not support that bill. Another bill that we got a lot of feedback on in the last few weeks was AB 1633. This was a bill that would have allowed developers to file lawsuits against local jurisdictions if they felt that the CEQA process was being unfairly dragged out to kind of pocket veto their development project. This bill also ended up passing. Senator Allen did withdraw his support, though, after hearing a lot of the concerns from the environmentalist community and also the local cities in our district. He was able to get some amendments passed to it, though, when it went through his committee in the Senate that clarified that the bill's provisions only apply to urban infill sites, and it is fully exempted from fire zones and the coastal zones as well. So it will not apply to the Santa Monica Mountains and our communities there. Just looking ahead to the recess, the senator will be up in this part of the district soon on October 6th. He'll be up there touring some small businesses in Westlake Village and Agoura Hills. And then he'll be going to the city of Agoura Hills night at the Adobe for Reyes Adobe Days that evening. We'll have a more complete calendar of events that he'll be doing up in the district within the coming weeks. I know we're planning on doing a couple of community coffees that'll be open to the public. And then one save the date that I have is Monday, November 6th at 4 p.m. We will be holding a hybrid in-person and virtual town hall on recycling and composting. So that's all I have for now, but happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you so much, Davis. Do we have any questions or comments, Penny?
Yeah, I would like, Davis, can you just elaborate a bit more on SB 676, the artificial turf? So are you saying now that cities can rule and ban it?
Yeah, cities can now ban artificial turf if they want.
Anywhere? I mean, like in residential areas, or is this just for business areas?
I believe it includes residential areas.
Okay, and then school districts, not our purview, right?
I would have to get clarification on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Do we have any more questions for Davis? If not, thank you so much, Davis. And I'd like to point out that Rachel Wagner's SCAG update is on page 11 through 17 in the agenda. And I think we already asked Rachel if we had any questions for her, and we didn't. Or do we? Do we have any questions since then? No? Okay, thank you. Then we're moving on to our next agenda item, which is the action item. The first one is the annual measure and project list. Terry, will you please present this item?
Thank you, President Gold. I presented this item. Well, obviously, I've been working on this with your city staffs for a long time, and I presented this to the city managers, and it changed briefly. So I want to kind of go back and explain where we were and how we got to where we are. Last year, when the COG approved our Measure M annual project list, it included the $9 million for, excuse me, for the regional smart fiber network. However, that wasn't approved, and so that only $300,000 was approved for the design engineering. The subsequent discussions that I've had with Metro recently that were different from the city managers was, just to give you some background, when Measure M was first approved, you may recall that the governing board approved a 5-year project list. And that 5-year project list outlined how the COG would allocate funding and how the cities would allocate funding over a 5-year period. As you might imagine, that was very difficult for the cities to do because while it's easy to program a year or two out, when you start programming 3 to 5 years out, it becomes a little more complicated. As a result of that, the COG has had a number of instances where, and it's through nobody's fault, but priorities change, city councils change, and other things occur that require the cities to readjust their projects or their priorities. And as a result of that, it requires Metro to go through an extensive funding agreement amendment for each project. So in discussing this between the TAC meeting a couple of weeks ago and preparing the COG agenda, Metro and I came upon an idea that made a lot of sense, and that was to have the COG this year approve the Measure M funds for the regional fiber network for the next couple of years, the next few years, and then also allocate some funding for Hidden Hills that would cover the backbone of their project. But the main focus of what Metro recommended, and what I thought was a good idea, and I've discussed it subsequently with the city managers, is that instead of the COG programming the additional funding that was not approved by Metro in this project list, Metro suggested that we wait until next year. And by waiting until next year, I want to stress that the cities will not lose any funding. The cities will not lose any time for projects. The only thing it would do, if we approved any funding today, that funding wouldn't become available until July of 2025. So what Metro has suggested is we get on a 1-year cycle, and that we're just programming for the following fiscal year. And in discussing it with the cities, and especially the public works directors, city engineers, they felt that it gives them a more realistic time frame to approve projects. So it will allow the governing, it will allow me to work with your cities over the next 10 months to put together the list that the governing board then would adopt next September, and the funding would be available in the following July. So I want to overly stress that there won't be any delays in projects. There won't be any funding that will not get allocated in a proper time or anything. So we'll stay on track, and we'll just be programming a shorter time frame instead of out so far. So let me ask first if there's any questions about that, because I've explained it a few different ways, and at first I used the term pause, that we should pause a year, and that got everybody nervous because we were going to lose money, but we're not. So I changed the terminology, so we're just programming a year out instead of 2 years out, if that makes sense. So then the recommendations that the city managers are making through the TAC that are still in place is to program for the current fiscal year 23-24 1.5 million to Hidden Hills for the fiber network backbone that runs through their city. By doing this, it allows Hidden Hills, instead of waiting to get reimbursed every year out of the Measure M funding allocation, it allows them to submit invoices as they occur when they're under construction for their portion of the project. And then in addition, after talking further with Jory, we're going to program 5 million for 24-25. That will allow us to get an early start on the project, because if you'll recall, the funding that was not approved by Metro earlier this year was for the 25-26 fiscal year. So what we're able to do is we're able to push funding into the 24-25 fiscal year, so that funding will be available next July to begin the first phase of the regional fiber network. And then lastly, there would be an additional 5 million for 25-26. And again, I want to stress that a couple of things are unknown. We don't really know the exact cost of what the fiber network is going to be. As you'll recall, Jory estimated it could be 12 million if Malibu wasn't involved. It could be 16 million if Malibu was involved. And so with getting more information from the design engineering, we'll have a better idea of if we program sufficient funding for the next 3 years, or if we need to move some money around. And the main thing, by programming only 5 million a year, that leaves over 8 million for the COG cities to program for other projects besides the fiber network. So when I'm working with the cities this year, and the city managers will be looking to figure out which projects the cities want to prioritize to focus on those projects, and then we would include those in the Measure M annual report or project list next year for funding the following July. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Terry.
I can see some no question. Okay.
I'll make a comment. I'm actually very pleased to hear that things are becoming more efficient, I would say. So I think we all know there's a lot of variables, and the further out we plan, the harder it is to stick to those plans. So I mean, while we have projects that are multi-year projects, the finances have to be pretty current. So I think that will help us to budget better, to make adjustments better, and to have better, I mean, more realistic financial views of projects. And plus, you know, priorities can change and circumstances can change, and we'll be more nimble. So I wholeheartedly support this new way of dealing with the Measure M funds. So thank you, Terry, for working this out.
Thank you.
If we don't have any questions or comments, then is there a motion to approve the annual Measure M project list?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Alicia. Can I get a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Penny. Would the executive director call the roll?
Ray Pearl,
Yes.
Doug Stewart,
Yes.
Penny Sylvester,
Aye.
Alicia Weintraub,
Yes.
President Gold.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. A final action item is the 2023-2024 COG LA County homeless contract. Talia, will you please present this item?
We finally received the COG LA County homeless contract that includes the scope of work and funding for our full-time outreach coordinator, Gabriel, the part-time administrative support to the executive director. That's the $1,000 a month from the grant, providing direct client assistance to unhoused individuals that Gabriel works with St. Joseph Center to pass along those fundings for unhoused individuals in need. And then the final item is reserving 4 beds. If you recall, it was 3, and then with the increase, it went to 4. The people concerned for unhoused individuals that they're working with in Malibu. We still have not, Gabriel has checked, we still have not found a similar opportunity on the other side of the hill for with Hope of the Valley or any other shelters that we could do something similar, but we are still looking for that as an opportunity in the future. But that includes the an overview of the funding that the COG has allocated for the homeless grant. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mary. Do we have any questions, Alicia?
No,
Alicia.
I just want to thank you and Gabriel for your work on this matter.
Oh,
I
my
think-
pleasure.
I really believe it's probably the most important issue impacting our COG region, and what happens in one city, Malibu, impacts the rest of us. So just thank you for your work. And Gabriel, thank you. Our Calabasas could not do any of this without you. So thank you. And I would be remiss, I just realized it's Eniko's birthday. So happy birthday, Eniko.
Happy birthday, Eniko.
Thank you. I'm
Happy
turning
birthday.
Happy birthday.
some experience. Thank you so much. And again, I'd like to, follow up Alicia's comments. I so appreciate everything you, Terry, and Gabriel do for our region. It's incredibly important. So with that said, if we don't have any more questions or comments, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
To approve.
Second.
By Doug. Thank you. Can the executive director call the roll?
Ray Pearl,
Yes.
Doug Stewart,
Yes.
Penny Sylvester,
Aye.
Alicia Weintraub,
Yes.
President Gold.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is general comments and requests for future agenda item. Are there any comments or requests for future agenda items? I don't see any hands. I'd like to check in briefly with our city managers if they have some happy news to share, interesting news. Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
I can begin. If oh, sorry, I jumped in ahead of you there.
Oh, go ahead, Rob. It's fine.
I always go last because Westlake Village is the W, so I thought this time I'm going to jump right in and say, but good to see you all and happy birthday, Eniko.
Thank you.
Yeah, things are good in Westlake Village. We had a great summer and a nice recess for the council in August, and then we're back in session now. We had our first meeting last week on the 13th, and we had a full agenda. Actually, we started the meeting with a study session on regulating paint color for exterior residential and commercial buildings. I think it's fair to say this was not a favorite topic for our mayor, Ray. But we did spend an hour and a half on that. Earth and tone is a really important color in Westlake Village, but what is earth and tone? Well, that's the question. So we spent some time on that. And I think a little less regulation and a little broader palette is where we're going to end up on the paint color topic. But also at the
And Rob, because I said it in public comment, I won't be going and saying anything out of line. That whole hour discussion really was like watching paint dry, you guys. It was rough.
It was yes, it was. But we had our regular meeting then later that evening, and we had some other matters of, I think, more important. And one was interesting. It was about Novo Cafe, and this is a restaurant in our city that violated the public health order during the pandemic, and they lost their health permit, and then we revoked their CUP. They have since made up with the health department and got their health permit back and paid their fines, and returned to the city now to get asked for their conditional use permit back. And I think there's a way to get to yes on this, but it was, it's a difficult policy decision that the council was put in, given the actions of this particular restaurant. And we had lots of guests in the chamber to share their perspective on all things pandemic and the government. So we got through that. And then, and also of note, last week, we approved a contract with Flock Safety to install license plate readers in Westlake Village. I think most of the cities have done that or are in the process of doing that. We're excited about that new investment and that new technology and tool for Lost Hills. So that's exciting. And then finally, we approved some significant contracts to build some sidewalks throughout town. Pedestrian safety has been a high priority for Mayor Pearl and the council for the last several years. And we have a sidewalk master plan now, and we're well underway of building additional sidewalks. So excited about that. So there's just a few updates from Westlake Village. Ray, anything more to add?
Rob, great report. I would just bring it full circle, if you will, on so many of those agenda items that Rob touched on. Touch your cities in one way or another, whether we're learning from you as as is the case in some of those, or things that have the potential to touch our COG cities. So I appreciate this forum very much. As we just talked about, for example, how we are able to work on these issues together, I think is incredibly impactful, instead of just looking at it only myopically through the eyes of Westlake Village. The Novo Cafe example was one where I know Agoura Hills experienced something similar with cronies. As Rob said, I would say probably only 5% of the people who spoke were Westlake Village residents. It just has a much broader reach. So I just want to thank all of you for this forum, and our ability to work as a region certainly impacts what we do locally. So appreciate that update, Rob.
Both. Who's next? Terry?
Well, I'll go in reverse alphabetical order. Sorry, Nate, you last for the first time. I want to first thank Alicia for stealing my thunder in announcing Eniko's birthday. So happy birthday again to President Gold. I thought I was going to get away with it. I thought it was going to get to me. Couple quick things and then a fun thing at the end. I don't know if you're all aware, at the end of August, we had an interesting thing happen at our Long Valley Gate. We had a Armenian protest regarding what they're terming as a new genocide. I don't have the information in front of me, but we had a truck show up and basically jackknife in front of our Long Valley entrance on a Saturday night. I know Eniko went down and did a great job working with them and negotiating, and it ended up with a very, very nice and peaceful solution. It took about 24 hours or so for them to fully disperse, but they were good to work with. They just wanted to call attention, and boy, did they get our attention. I want to thank the COG for their support through the Metro funds for our fiber to the home project. It's a really exciting project, which I know you guys are all keeping an eye on, and the COG fiber network is the first step. But just as a reminder, we have designed our network. We're going to go to council at the end of October to get approval to release the bids for construction. And this will bring 2 gigabits of fiber to every home in Hidden Hill for about $150. So it's a very exciting project. It's a long time coming. Jory Wolf, who spoke to you earlier, has been our consultant and has been really great. Speaking of Metro funds, our entrance project, our Measure R, Measure M Metro project at the Long Valley Gate, we've awarded a construction contract and will be under construction at the end of October. So it's our turn. Very excited about that. But the fun thing is it's our Fiesta. I think we're the first city to go with a fall type festival. Ours is Fiesta. There's a parade in the morning, Saturday, September 30th. That night, there is a very, very big carnival here next to City Hall with a wonderful community dinner. We serve about 1,000 meals that night. All the council members from all the cities have been invited. You should have received a letter at City Hall inviting you. If you did not hear from anybody and you'd like to attend either the parade or the carnival dinner, I know that Eniko would love to have you and host you that night. It's super fun. I know some of you have been over the years, and if you're interested, just reach out. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Gary. And I'd like to add a couple things. Yeah, we really appreciate everybody's support on the fiber project that we're about to embark on. And then also today is Gary's 7-year anniversary of the City of Hidden Hills as our city manager. So congratulations. I wanted to mention that. That's a big number,
yes. Right?
Yes. I mean, you told me it's a big number. So
Eniko, you had the under. I think you had the under on it.
And anyways, and yeah, I would love to see all of you at the Fiesta. Hopefully you can come by and either the parade or the Fiesta. I would love to see you there. So please come by. Thank you. Who's next, Nathan?
Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to go last for once, I guess. So, but I just want to thank you and happy birthday, Chair Gold, our President Gold. So we have our Race Adobe Days kicking off on October 6th with the Night at the Adobe. It will be at our Race Adobe Park and Historical Site, and we'd love to see everybody out. We'll have local breweries and wineries and some food and arts and crafts out. So it's a great evening out. We just completed our annual creek cleanup, and Councilmember Wolf, who I believe is still on, has been leading that for quite some time. So he's once again heading that up, and we had I think about 140 plus people come out, so it was a great turnout. And then just like everybody else, I think we're ramping up for the League California Cities. So looking forward to spending some time with all of you there. And if Penny or Jeremy, if there's anything else you want to add?
No, I think Jeremy had to go, but again, I would like to stress the work he did on the creek cleanup was great. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody up in Sacramento, and happy birthday, Eniko.
Concludes your report, Nathan. Then Alicia has a comment.
Oh, no, I would add for when it comes to Calabasas all.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Nathan. Does that conclude your report? Okay. Thank you. Alicia?
Kindon apologizes he couldn't be here today because we are interviewing for a permanent public works director. So he sends his regards, but just a few quick updates for Calabasas. We are really trying to get a hold of these open space burglaries that have impacted Calabasas. So we have we're working with Covered 6 and our HOAs. So we have a contract with them and are working with the HOAs and some new technologies to hopefully combat that. Another thing is street racing is a big issue in our community. And we were able to just purchase these new devices. They're speed radar signs, but instead of just flashing the number, it's actually recording the speed that people are going. So we get a report of all the cars going by. So then we can show the sheriff, between 10 and midnight, cars are going between 70 and 80 miles per hour. Please help us get a deputy out at that time. So that's something that we've purchased, I think, 4 of these devices, and we're hoping to get more. And we're also expanding our flock system. So we're really trying to get a hold on some of these public safety issues. Thank you.
Could I ask Alicia a follow-up?
Yeah.
What are you using Covered 6 for specifically?
Covered 6. So they're basically kind of acting as a consultant with our city and working with the HOAs. And I can tell you more offline. But just we had to do more than what was being done.
Thank you. Don? Don?
Did you call me? Yeah.
Yes, you had your hand
Okay.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, quickly, Steve McCleary's on vacation this week, so and Paul is out, so you've got the lesser of all equals here. Quick comments. First off, we had our chili cook-off festival over Labor Day, a big success for our Boys and Girls Club, which is awesome. That's the only way I can put it here at Malibu. They do so much for our kids and our school system. It's just, I don't know how we could operate without them. One thing that we did change this year, we had a chaperone policy, which changed the entire attitude of a lot of the youngsters that were there, I guess the best way to put it. Sheriff's Department was very pleased with it, and we hope to continue that policy going forward. I'll give everyone a heads up, PCH is going to be a mess. Traffic synchronization program that we've got underway with Caltrans, it's going to be digging up part of the streets. We've got Caltrans projects up and down between the center of Malibu all the way to Santa Monica. There's projects in city of Los Angeles. I know that my wife just left this morning. What normally takes 30 minutes showed up before she left at almost an hour to go to Santa Monica. So as you look at options, PCH may not be it. Our sheriff's substation remains in limbo. As all of you know, it's hard to get staffing. The sheriff's department just doesn't have anybody else to add to it. And so our building is sitting there with the doors locked. And we're hoping to be able to work on that. Also, I want to mention about the cameras. We too have had issues with some burglaries here in town. when I was on Public Safety Commission a couple of years ago, we worked out a deal with the Sheriff's Department for a camera, other than the flock cameras. The flock cameras are very good. In fact, my HOA has them here. But the traffic volume on PCH was such that we had to go to a different vendor, and they coordinate directly with the Sheriff's Department. We've learned, quite surprisingly, there's actually a deputy group assigned to install and work with cities to put these upgraded cameras in. And I think we have 8 or 9 that are in the process of being finalized right now. Plus, we have flock cameras at various HOAs and POAs here in town. So that's basically it from here in Malibu. Thank you. And by the way, happy birthday, Eniko.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. So the next TAC meeting will be on October 4th, and the next governing meeting will be on October 17th. And if there is no further business, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.